Thank you, Emily. Alrighty, we're going to get started. Help yourself to refreshments. Like I say, we're having more refreshments than you can handle today. So pace yourselves. Today's class, we're going to talk about three different things that play a major part in your success in real estate. Market conditions dictate a lot of things that we do, and there are times, we all know that it's been a seller's market, listings were golden, and if you had a listing, you had money in the bank. I mean, that's just the way it worked. Everything sold immediately, life was good. I've been in this business when I've seen the average market time for a single family home in San Diego County in excess of 6 months. Average market time. Raging buyer's market. But the thing is, our market always changes. It never remains, it'll stay the same for a while, but the pendulum swings both ways, and you need to be able to adapt. People that succeed in this business in the long run adapt to the current market conditions. We're in a unique situation right now in that a year ago, there might be 2 expired listings in all the MLS because everything sold. Today, you're going to start seeing more expired listings. The suggestion is that we may start seeing short sales. We may start seeing REO properties. People that buy at the top of the market with the idea that they're going to hold for a short time, make a bunch of money, and sell and move on. The people that buy at the top of the market, when the market turns, they get caught. It's like the last people in a Ponzi scheme. The early people in get paid. The people who get in at the end get stuck. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So expired listings, a year ago, we wouldn't even be talking about expired listings because there were none. One thing is constant, there will always be for sale by owners. For sale by owners are a unique group of sellers, and we're going to talk specifically about them. In the handout and the last thing we're going to talk about is my favorite thing, and that's developing your referral sources and developing your referral business. Referral business is great, first of all. Outgoing referrals, all you got to do is provide the name, contact, and wait to get paid when the property either sells or they buy. Incoming referrals are equally good. It's business you wouldn't get otherwise. Yeah, you have to pay a referral fee most of the time, except for the company-generated referrals. But developing your referral business is critical to your long-term success in this business. The first handout I gave you, I love this handout. I've talked about this for years, called Begin the Day. Oh, I didn't want to interrupt your bagel consumption there, Jeff. Plus, I was killing time. Begin the day. I love this. And this is the attitude you got to have in real estate. I wake up every day unemployed. When you get up in the morning, you get out of bed, have the attitude, at this very moment, I'm unemployed. I need to go to work. And the problem in our business, and the reason that the success rate in real estate is what it is, why don't you take a few of these, Jeff, and hang on to them. There'll be a few stragglers. We were talking about that. Traffic on the 78 was equally bad this morning, so,
Creepy. I got off on the expressway to avoid traffic. I got back on the highway, no one on the road. So I think there was an accident somewhere in between Black Mountain.
Sadly, there was a spin out on 78 this morning. It had the freeway completely stopped. All right. Anyway, the reason I'm saying that the reason that the success rate in our business nationally, we all know somewhere between 70-75% of the people who get a real estate license, they're gone in 2 years. That's the statistic.
Well, I wish a bunch of them were
And some of them are not physically gone. They're still around, but they're not doing any business. When the market tightens up, a lot of these people do go away, and that benefits the professionals that are in the business for the long run. So, talking about expired listings is a great topic because it's near and dear to me. I've done a lot of business working expireds. I've done some business working with for sale by owners. I really work my referral network. And you don't want to overlook that. That's number one. Anyway, begin the day with the attitude that you're unemployed, and then go to work. There's too many possibilities, too many diversions and distractions when you're at home. You could say, well, you know, I should call some for sale by owners today. I could work on my farming campaign, or I could walk the dog. I could do a couple loads of laundry. I could do some other stuff. That's the problem, you know, and the professionals know when it's time to work, you work. When it's time to play, by all means, play and enjoy yourself. I must prospect, market, and farm aggressively. There are 60,000 real estate transactional sites in San Diego every year. I only need to be involved in 20. If you're involved in 20 real estate transactions based on the median price home at a 2.5% commission, you're making in excess of $400,000. So if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. Now, we've got a number of agents in our company that are doing just that and more. So how do we generate leads? Call expired listings. We're going to talk about that. Canceled listings. Same thing as expired, but a little bit different. Orphaned homeowners. You know, if you're doing one side of a transaction and the listing agent presents themselves, you got the buyer and the listing agent kind of demonstrated that they're not really on top of their game. They're doing this on a part-time basis and they're not really professional. There's no reason why you can't follow up with that seller when you represented the buyer 3 or 4 months later and ultimately develop them as your client, particularly if they really like the job you did on your side of the transaction. Orphaned homeowners. Cold calling, everybody's favorite. Everybody loves cold calling. Actually, we have a couple of agents in our company that love cold calling. It's what they do, and they're very good at it. Open houses. I love open houses probably more than, if it weren't for open houses, I would not be in real estate today. Because everything I did in my first 2 years as a new agent, I could track all the way back, originating at an open house. Bless you. Open houses. Every other form of prospecting that we do, the goal of that prospecting activity has only one goal, and that goal is to get that person you're talking to agree to meet with you face to face. The high priority activity in real estate is face-to-face meetings with people that are interested in buying or selling real estate. Everything else we do has that goal of getting face-to-face. The thing I like about open houses, the minute they walk in the door, you're face-to-face. You've eliminated the intermediate step. Brian's got a great story. I've already shared it, Brian. Met a buyer at an open house. People came in, loved him, wrote an offer, got it accepted. Bad news is in a backup position, but you never know. Anyway, the point is, there you go. Open houses, I love open houses. Ads, working for sale by owners, market yourself, and your sphere of influence. As a newer agent, most people are more likely to do more business with people that they already know, and that's their sphere of influence. I included a blank sheet of paper in there so you can just make some notes of some, because this one thing we're going to talk about is not part of your handout.
I'm really sorry.
There's the birthday girl. She's one of the birthday girls this month, Emily Zach.
I am, but I just want to say I'm really sorry for having late my, the traffic came to a complete stop on the freeway.
You're the first person that's told me that today. Yeah, let's start over again.
Thank you.
Okay. We're talking about generating leads. I love this little, dear pessimists, dear optimists, pessimists, and realists. While you guys were busy arguing about the glass of water, I drank it. Sincerely, the opportunist. You want to be an opportunist in this business. Take advantage of every opportunity that comes along. Most of the opportunities don't come along. You generate them, you create them. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. How do we generate leads? This is not part of your handout. This is what, you don't even need to write this down. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. How do we generate leads? Well, number one, advertising, cold calls. I'll put them all up there. Expireds, for sale by owners, buyer conversion and open houses, target market list, and your sphere of influence of people that you know. Of these different ways of generating leads, advertising is a passive method of lead generation. It's passive in the sense that whatever form of advertising you put it out there, and then you've got to wait to see if anybody responds to it. The other 6 on this list, you initiate these. You initiate the contact. Cold calling, calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, working buyer conversions and open houses, working your target market, your geographical farm, your sphere of influence. You initiate all of these contacts. Advertising is good. You want to advertise. But if nobody responds to your ad, then you can make the argument that that ad was not productive. Or you wrote something, it's just the way the market is. But just know that you have control of all of these. Now, I've had people say, for sale by owners? I don't want to work for sale by owners. Any of you that were at the round table in Rancho Bernardo, the last one that we did, that Jim Burns did, he made me laugh a little bit. Jim and I were licensed in the same year, so we've done a lot of business together. But he said, oh yeah, I never wanted to work for sale by owners. They're all mean, and I hear they eat their children. You know, that was a quote from Jim Burns. And to tell you the truth, when it comes to for sale by owners, they fall into 2 different categories. The biggest category is the category of for sale by owners that are for sale by owners because they want to save money. You can, I can, we can work with those people most of the time because it's all about the money. The other group of for sale by owners that are really difficult to work with are the for sale by owners that somewhere previously in their lifetime did a real estate transaction involving agents. And it was a nightmare transaction. And they left that deal saying, I will never work with another realtor as long as I live. They're much more difficult to work with. If you're able to convert one of those people, you'll have a client for life and a source of referrals. I'll tell you, because I've had a couple of them that have happened.
I'm just curious, did they share with you like what it was that happened that was a bad experience for them?
Absolutely. When you have contact, we're going to kind of get a little ahead of ourselves, but when you meet a for sale by owner and you approach them and they say, stay away from me, I want to talk to you, I hate all of you guys and everything else, I always ask the question, what makes you feel that way? And they're very happy to share the gory details of that transaction, how it cost them money, what a nightmare it was. If you're able to finally convert that client to somebody that you can represent or assist in selling their property, like I say, once you do that, they'll say, wow, I have a totally different opinion now, and you got a client for life going forward. But they are a tough group. Those are the ones that eat their children, as Jim Burns would say. Okay, so let's talk a little bit let's start with expired listings. Let's see, make sure I got the same handout that you guys do. And for those of you that arrived late, we are recording this class, or we're attempting the recording. I don't know that we really are. I won't know till I check this when we're done. But in a perfect world, it will be recorded. Also, I will mention that this class that I'm doing today is normally about a 2.5-hour class. But I've eliminated certain portions of it to keep it down to a manageable level so we can finish in time to have pizza and birthday cake. So we will be done on time. So part of the slides you're going to see me display, I'm going to speed through because they don't have relevance to what we're talking about today. Like these. We're going to go right through this real quickly and I like this one though. Opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor. If you don't get out there, I've heard too many people say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that when I get around to it. Yeah, oh, that's something I'm going to do as soon as I find time. That'll never happen. You'll never find time. You'll never get around to it. You got to force yourself to get out there. Put yourself at risk. Will you lose sometimes? Of course. That's the nature of our business. But you can't win if you don't give it a shot. So get out on the dance floor. We're going to speed through these. Okay, talk about keys to working with expired listings. First of all, I got to tell you, every expired listing does not represent an opportunity for you. We all know that. All you experienced agents know that. In fact, when I was doing my business in Scripps Ranch, I would take a listing and I would go to my sellers and I would say, they'd say, oh, Larry, by the way, the two types of listings we're talking about, of course, are the come list me call, a past client, a family member, friend. You've got an established relationship. They love you. They're never going to jump ship and take another agent. The other type of listing is the listing that you get because you meet somebody at an open house that needs to sell. Might be a referral. Somebody says, I hear these people are thinking about selling. You should call them. These folks don't have a relationship with you. When listings expire, the seller has two choices as to who to blame for that property not selling. They have the choice of blaming themselves or their agent. Now, we all know who gets blamed. They never take responsibility. They always blame the agent. So just know that. But a lot of agents will take a listing, and I've had sellers say, well, Larry, how long of a listing do you want? 6 months, a year? And I would say, nah, 60 days. Well, give me a 60-day listing. Wow, you pretty sure you can get it sold that soon? Yeah, I like to think so, but I don't know for sure. But here's what I do know. If we list it for 60 days and it expires, we can relist it again, and it does show as a new listing again. Now, we all know that the MLS gives you the ability to search history. In the old days, you couldn't do that. So we used to manipulate the MLS. I know that I'm looking at some of you that I know manipulated the MLS. I was very good at it. I would take a listing. We started by take a listing for 6 months. It didn't sell after 30 days. We all know that the activity on a listing, when you take a listing, here's 0, listing day. The first 30 days, this is the honeymoon period in a normal market. You and your sellers, you love each other, you're doing everything you can, everything else. The next 30 days, well, reality is set in. And if it still hasn't sold at this point, the honeymoon is definitely over. And the relationship starts to suffer. So what we used to do, and most activity on listings, of course, as we know, takes place when it first hits the market. Because you've got a pool of buyers that are out there already looking. Everything that hits the market, they go out and look at it right away. So what we would do is, I would take a listing, it might be a 6-month listing, and after 60 days, seller's saying, Larry, activity's dropped off dramatically. What should we do? Here's what we're going to do. We'll cancel the listing. Oh, no, I love you. We don't want to cancel our listing. No, I love you too. But you're going to cancel the listing with me today. But you're going to relist it with me tomorrow. Of course, the MLS, other agents out there said, wait a minute. That guy Larry is manipulating the system. He's canceling his listing and then relisting it and putting it back in as a brand new listing again. We got to stop him from doing that. And the MLS said, you're right. We got to rein that guy in. So then they passed a rule. You can't cancel a listing and relist it for 30 days. Seller said, well, I don't want to be off the market for 30 days. Not a problem. Here's what we'll do. We'll find a new way to manipulate the system. We'll take the listing and we'll cancel it. Well, Larry, you can't relist it for 30 days, right? That's right. But you know what? I've got this great friend named Emily, and she's in my office. And we're going to list it under Emily's name. And it's going to say, for all information, call the second agent. Who's the second agent? Me, of course. And so I'll take Emily out to lunch afterwards when the deal closed, or maybe something a little bit more. But anyway, of course, the MLS said they found a new way to manipulate the system. Can't do that anymore either. So now the circumstances are different. A legitimate expiration of a listing, if I take a listing that expires in 60 days or 30 days or whatever, I can turn right around and relist it again. But know that every expired listing is not an opportunity for you. There are some listings that expired that people have changed their mind, or they've decided to pause, waiting for the market to reverse itself. We're going to see a lot of that right now. So the first thing you have to do, I'm going to give you these 3 components of these 6 keys together because there's a way to incorporate all 3 of them in the same conversation. The first thing you need to do is get them to admit they still want to sell. You must be a sympathetic conversationalist when you talk to expired listings, and you need to learn how to renew their motivation. The dialogue is pretty straightforward. Oh, somebody's got the toaster oven going to meltdown mode here.
That was Jeff.
That was Jeff.
I'll go with that.
Dan plugged it.
You know, the smoke alarm works in here, I'm pretty sure, so don't worry. And we have an air sprinkler system that'll come on if things get bad. All righty. So how do you get them to admit they still want to sell? You got to be a sympathetic conversationalist and learn how to renew their motivation. You're going to be yourself, use your own dialogue. My personal style was I would call this seller and say, yeah, I see your property has expired in the MLS. Yeah, that property didn't sell. You know, I can appreciate your frustration. It's no fun having your property on the market for sale, getting it ready every day because somebody might come in and then have nobody come in or the property doesn't sell. I mean, I can appreciate your frustration. There's nothing more frustrating than to go to all that trouble and not get the tangible result you were looking for. But just out of curiosity, if your property had sold, where were you going? That is the key question in this whole thing. If your property had sold, where were you going? Well, we wanted to move to Texas, wanted to move to Austin, Texas, and live close to our family and our grandchildren. That's really why we were selling. Well, is that something you would still want to do? Well, absolutely, we would still love to do it, but our house didn't sell. No, I understand that. But if you could sell today at a number you felt was appropriate and you were able to make that move, is that still something you would like to do? If the answer is yes, you're halfway home at that point. You've basically gotten to admit they still want to sell, you've been sympathetic with their circumstances, and you've learned how to renew their motivation because they still want to make the move. Now, from a practical standpoint, all of you know this. If you see a property in the MLS that's been on the market for, particularly in this market, but in pretty much any market, you see a property that's been on the market for 90 days and expired, why do you think that property didn't sell? What's the main reason it didn't sell? Thank you. Do not blame the price. Had to ask because that's the knee-jerk reaction. You look at it, you go, what? I ran my CMA on it. These people are dreaming. No wonder it didn't sell. It's overpriced. But you can't do that. You can't say, well, you know, folks, I can tell you I'm really sympathetic with your situation and all the rest. No, you still want to move to Texas. But there's no way you're going to sell that house asking for that price. That's ridiculous. I mean, you're going to hear a dial tone at that point. Conversation is over. So you do not blame the price. But what you do is use what we call the saleability checklist. And the saleability, I gave you a sample copy of a current updated saleability checklist. Annie and her team, Stephanie, were helpful in generating a new branded, nice, current saleability checklist. I created the components, the bullet points, but they actually put the page together. Using the saleability checklist is your tool, your ticket to get face-to-face with that expired listing. Because the conversation goes like this. After you've gone through the first 3 steps and you know you're not going to blame the price even though you know that's the reason it didn't sell, I have this question with the seller. Well, just out of curiosity, when you had your property listed with the previous agent, did they advertise it much? And the response is, well, yeah, they advertise it. You know, they put it on a lot of different sites and did some print ads. And yeah, I can't fault them for their marketing. Yeah, they did a pretty good job of it. Oh, okay. Did they hold it open as often as you wanted? Well, yeah, they actually held it open as often as we wanted to. They even offered to do it more. Oh, okay, so far I haven't hit on anything. Let me ask you this. Did the previous agent sit down with you and evaluate the marketability of your home using what we call the saleability checklist? You ask that question, you usually get one of 3 answers. Really one of 2. One is just nothing. a blank stare or a no response. Typically what you get is, I don't think so, or what you get most of the time is, what's that? What's that? Never heard of it. You know, folks, I'm not sure, but I think we may have hit on the problem. Let's do this. I don't mind. There's no cost, no obligation. Why don't I come over, sit down with you, let you give me a tour of your home, let me evaluate the marketability of your home using the saleability checklist. If we don't accomplish anything else, if you ever put your home back on the market with me or any other agent, it will keep you from making the same mistake a second time. Fair enough? I'll tell you, that is very powerful dialogue, and if they still want to sell, they'll say, no cost, no obligation, evaluate the marketability, and if I go to put it on the market again, it'll keep me from making the same mistake a second time. Sure, okay, yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? And you make an appointment. The value of the saleability checklist at that point is, it's your ticket to get to the high priority activity of face-to-face, and that's where you really go to work. That's where you demonstrate that you're a pro, you talk about what you do to market your properties that you have listed, and you identify the problem. And when you get back to the issue of the price, you say something like, well, you know what, let's use another tool that I found very helpful in using to evaluate the proper price, and we call it the comparison flow chart. Now, some of you, many of you have attended that class and have received a sample of the comparison flow chart. The beauty of the comparison flow chart is it's a tool properly used, and you getting the seller involved in the completion of it, as we've talked about. You're not in a position anymore of telling the seller, you know, the reason your house didn't sell was you were overpriced. Properly used, you go through the comparison flow chart, finish the dialogue, finish the form using the seller's input, and then your close is something like, what do you folks think? And the response is, well, gee, from what I can see here, maybe we were overpriced. Why didn't I think of that? You know,
2 questions.
by all means.
Where will these tools be located?
Agent Hub, and I've got full copies. I'll be happy to give you a sample one. Everybody that attended
I
that,
have one, but, you know, I just,
oh, once you have one blank form,
yeah.
you
Is
can,
there another, I mean, is there gonna be someplace?
oh, absolutely, they're on Agent Hub, and I'll be happy to give you one after the class.
Okay, and then the other question is, what if they have to get that amount of money to sell?
I've had some, that's a great question. The problem is, I've had sellers say to me, Larry, we need 800,000. From a practical standpoint, if you're representing a buyer and the buyer thinks the property and the CMA and every other statistic says it's worth 750, the fact that the seller needs 800,000, is that going to motivate a buyer to say, well, gee, it's only worth 750, but the seller needs 8, so I guess I got to pay 8. It's not a practical application of logic, I guess is what I'm saying. What a seller needs, and I've told sellers, you know what, I can appreciate the fact that you need 8, but based on everything that I can see, on a good day with a highly motivated buyer, we might get 750. And I've used this phrase 1,000 times. Folks, I wish I could help you, but I don't do magic. And what you're asking me to do requires magic. And I've had sellers say, well, let's go ahead and list it anyway. Let's list it for $825 and see if we can get 8. The only thing worse than having no listings is having an overpriced listing that doesn't sell. It's going to cost you time, it's going to cost you money, and it's going to cost you your reputation. So I've had sellers say, well, we need 8, and if you can't get us 8, then we don't want to. You got to list it for 8, Larry. We're ready to list it right now. And I've said, I don't do magic. I'd rather turn you down now than let you down later. So let's do this. Let's call it an evening. I wish you luck, and if I can answer any questions for you, don't hesitate to call me. I've had sellers say, wait a minute, you're leaving? Well, yeah, I am. I'd have no other choice. I can't do magic. I can't get you more than what the property is worth. So rather than disappoint you and let you down later, I'd rather part friends and turn you down now. One of two things will happen. They'll either say, okay, go. in which case you've left behind an unsaleable listing, which is of no value. In fact, it's worse than no value, so you're leaving nothing of value behind. I'll tell you, more than half the time, I've had sellers say, well, now, wait a minute, sit down. Let's talk about this. Can we try 8? Of course we can try 8. We can list it for $7.99, and I'll take that listing if we agree in advance that if we don't get an offer in the first couple of weeks, or what, you can set the time period, whatever you want, we're going to agree we're going to reduce the price. We can also try using value range marketing to see what the market, by the way, that's the real definition of what a property is, quote, worth, is what a buyer will pay for it, and if there's a loan, what it will appraise for. And I've had sellers say, well, okay, well now and then I've taken that listing at $7.99, reduced it to $7.79 2 weeks later, and opened escrow at $7.50 30 days later. We don't do magic. And unfortunately, in the market we're in right now, some markets are still declining, some markets are staying pretty healthy. There are areas right now where there has been no real price erosion and there's still high demand. I'll ask Brian, because he's already shared this with me. Brian, a buyer asked you today, hey Brian, how many homes are there for sale in all of Scripps Ranch?
Well, now there's 9, but 9 in the single family.
The market is still hot in Scripps Ranch. People are listings selling quickly at full price. Other markets, not so much. But anyway, working expired listing, it's a great logical source of business. These are people that wanted to sell and didn't. And back in the day when the average market time was 6 months, I've actually seen it in excess of 6 months for a single family home in San Diego. It was one of the rare times when more people were leaving California than were coming in. It was a unique market, and people would put their properties on the market for sale expecting it to sell, and it wouldn't. And when it didn't sell, they don't want to blame themselves, so they blame their agent. The listing expires or they cancel and they relist with another agent. During those market times when it was taking 6 months to sell a property, the joke that was making the real estate rounds in the community was, you know, it's best to be the firstborn, the second spouse, or the third listing agent. Because by the time the third listing agent, the reality set in, and either the market caught up or the seller finally got reality and ultimately got it sold. So it was kind of a funny joke at the time to everybody except the sellers, of course. So use the comparison flow chart to deal with pricing, and then you've got an expired listing that relists the property at a price that it will sell for. And it's a beautiful tool because you're not telling them that it's overpriced anymore. They're concluding on their own that it's overpriced. And then that doesn't disrupt your relationship with that seller. You still have a good relationship with them. I love this quote. We've already talked about it once, but some of you didn't get to see it because you got here a little bit late. Dear optimist, pessimist, and realist, while you guys were arguing about the glass of water, I drank it, the opportunist. That's what you want to do, is you want to take advantage of every opportunity. And expired listings are a great potential source of business because they are people that wanted to sell and didn't. So now let's talk about another group. For sale by owners. For sale by owners, there are two basic truths about for sale by owners. The first one I'll put up there is, it says you have no competition. I'll modify that a little bit and say you have little competition. There are many agents in real estate, established agents that do quite well. And you'll ask them, do you work for sale by owners? And you'll get the response that Jim Burns shared, you know, oh no, I avoid for sale by owners altogether. You know, they're horrible people, they eat their children. The reality is that, like I said, for sale by owners, the groups that are in it only to save money, I've been very successful in working with those for sale by owners. And sometimes in some markets, due to no inventory, for sale by owners can succeed in getting their property sold because there's nothing out there. And they'll get a buyer's agent to work for them and they'll pay the buyer's agent, but they won't pay a listing agent. Market conditions have a whole lot to do with how successful for sale by owners can be. And by the way, a much greater percentage of for sale by owner transactions that do close wind up in litigation afterwards than ones where you have knowledgeable agents on both sides making sure all the disclosures and everything is done. Disclosures are nothing more than insurance policies for the seller to insulate them from losing in a lawsuit. But for sale by owners, you have little competition, and you all do this, but you got to believe in your profession. I know when I meet a for sale by owner, I know going in, I can help that for sale by owner sell that property quicker and for more money in their pocket at the close of escrow than if they sell it themselves. Of course, people say, well, how can that be? Well, I'll tell you why. First of all, when you have a conversation with a for sale by owner, I've always begun the conversation with something like, I don't blame them. You know, I don't blame you for trying to sell your house yourself. I mean, you know, if you could sell your house for the same price that I could and save the commission, you'll net more at the close of escrow. And if you could do that, I don't blame you for trying to do that. But I know, because I believe in my profession, I know that that's not reality. And it is not reality, and NAR can verify that for you. We'll talk about that in just a second. When you work with for sale by owners, the first thing you have to do is get in the door honestly. Honestly. Now, all you experienced agents that have been around for a while, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you to throw the answer right out. What is the way that agents oftentimes approach for sale by owners in a dishonest way to get an opportunity to talk to them?
They say they're looking for a buyer.
Exactly. They say, the conversation begins, I think I have a buyer for your property. That is the most, and 99% of the time, that's not true. They'll bring their brother, their mother, their sister over and show them the house. And they'll say, oh, but they really like it, but it's not going to work out for them, whatever. But while we're here, let's talk about, now you're trying to connect. That is a dishonest way of getting in the door. And it's the most prevalent way of doing it. My home, where I live, I get farming pieces from probably 10 different agents that are farming my community. Nobody knows. I don't have car signs. Nobody knows that I'm a realtor. And I do that intentionally because I want to see marketing pieces. I want to see what they're, and some of them are pretty impressive, most of which I've seen over and over again. But I got one a while back that was unique. Opened up my mailbox, and from this agent, I opened up this envelope, and this is what's in the envelope. Okay? Cute little flip-flop. I'm going, what is this all about? And then I look inside and I go, I got to see what this is all about. Classic. Find the right pair of glasses here that I can see with, not these. These work. It says,
one-legged child needs
pardon? Pardon?
one-legged child needs home.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We'll talk about that in a minute, Dave. Why have I sent you this shoe? And the response is, very simply, so you can throw it at the next agent who calls up and makes the bold-faced lie to you about how he might have a buyer for your home. Now, is that classic or what? I mean, every time you think you've seen it all, you get a new wrinkle. Now, I don't know what this costs to do, what it costs to send out, but if I were thinking about selling my home, and particularly if I was a for sale by owner, and she sent this out to everybody in the neighborhood, so it wasn't I wasn't a for sale by owner, but this is a great piece. But it validates the point that I'm making, that's what most dishonest agents will do to get in the door with a for sale by owner. So don't make that mistake, because it will bite you every single time. But this was a novel piece, and like I say, I save all these things that I get because I think if I see something that's really good and different, I'll share it with everybody in the company and say, hey, this is a good piece. You might want to consider using this in your marketing. Okay, So get in the door honestly. I have another story about that, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to share it with you today, but it's kind of a funny one. Number 3, you've got to impress the blank out of them. You can fill in the blank. I always like to use heck. Impress the heck out of them. If you're driving around a neighborhood and you see a for sale by owner sign, and you stop and you go, wow, that's a potential listing, yeah. And you pick up the phone and you call them and you say, you don't know who they are yet. Hey, Mr. Fizbo, by the way, don't ever say that. I remember the first time I ever heard the phrase Fizbo. I was a brand new agent and somebody said, oh yeah, so-and-so's working on a Fizbo. And I thought, isn't that a French fry they sell at Carl's Jr.? Aren't those called Fizbos? But no, for sale by owner. But anyway, impress the heck out of the for sale by owner. And you do that by, here's how you don't impress them. Pick up the phone, oh, here's a for sale by owner in my neighborhood. Hey, Mr. Seller, I see your house here at 1234 Spring Street. How big a house you got there? How many bedrooms? How much you asking? How big a piece of land do you have there? Is that impressing anybody? Not at all. If you do a tiny bit of research and you pick up the phone and you say, and this is back to the story, I had a buyer that was looking for a property in Mira Mesa. It was a unique floor plan called the Space Master. It was a great home for a family that had teenagers because upstairs, the master bedroom was downstairs. There were 3 bedrooms upstairs and like an upstairs family room. So if you had teenagers, if you put in a cooler and a microwave, they'd never have to come downstairs. You can send them upstairs and never see them again, you know. But the Space Master was a recognizable floor plan because the front of the house had this big giant window in the family room, the upstairs family room. I had buyers that were looking for that floor plan, and the only one that was on the market was in a horrible location. And my buyers drove around and they found this for sale by owner, the Space Master, and they called me and said, hey, Larry, we found a Space Master. It's on the market for sale. Oh, yeah? Who's got it listed? No, it's for sale by owner. I said, okay, well, give me the name and phone number. Gave me the name and phone number. I quickly did my research, got their name, knew who they were, called them up. I said, hey, Mr. Jones, this is Larry McGee with RE/MAX Connections. And he goes, Larry, I'm not working with any agents. I said, no, I understand that. The for sale by owner sign was a dead giveaway. But anyway, I said, no, I understand that, but let me ask you a question. If I had a buyer for your property that would give you what you wanted and net you what you feel like you needed to get out of that property, would you consider allowing me to represent that buyer? There was a long dance that took place before we got to the bottom line, and I'm cutting to the chase here. He said, well, if you bring me an offer that gives me what I want and provides some compensation for you, yes, I would do that. Great. Took my clients over, showed them the property. They loved it. Got the seller to sign a single party compensation agreement. He'd already said he was going to pay me 3%. That was the market then. I lived in the world of real estate when the standard commission was 6%, non-negotiable, unless you wanted to pay 6.5%. And everybody each side got 3. That was the norm back in the day. Anyway, ultimately he agreed to, okay, I'll pay you the 3, and you represent the buyer, but you're not going to represent me. And I said, no problem. But let me ask you a question. By the way, when you do a for sale by owner transaction, the only way you can make sure your buyer is completely protected is to do the buyer's agent's job and the listing agent's job. You know, you ask the seller, what are you going to do about disclosures? What do you mean? What disclosure? For sale by owner. So you're going to become an agent of that seller, whether you like it or not, a de facto agent of the seller. And I've approached sellers and I say, you know what? If I represent the buyer, I'm going to have you sign a seller non-agency agreement that says, I'm not representing you at all. You're on the hook for everything on your side of the transaction. Well, yeah, okay, I understand there's a little bit of risk. I said, how would you like to mitigate that risk? Let's do this. You've agreed you're going to pay me 3. How about we do this? How about you pay me 4? And I'll represent you 2. I'll represent you both. My E&O will cover the transaction. I'll make sure all the disclosures are done properly. It'll help insulate you against a claim after the close of escrow. I already know that I'm going to have to do this anyway. So if he says, nope, not going to pay you a point, I'll give you a half a point. I will do it because I'm going to do it anyway. And a half a point, half a loaf is better than no bread at all. So I know I'm going to do it anyway. But at this point in the process, you need to impress the heck out of that for sale by owner by, when I called this gentleman, I say, Mr. Seller, I understand, I see you have your home on the market for sale. I know it's the Space Master floor plan built by Pardee, 2,736 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths with the bonus room upstairs. And by the way, you're on a pretty good sized lot there, you know, and I quoted the dimensions and everything. He went, and I knew his name, by the way. I didn't say, who are you? Just a little bit of data that says you're a pro that's done a little bit of research before you make the call, as compared to, what's your name? What do you got? How much you asking? Not impressive. So, number 4. By the way, for sale by owners, we'll get into this in a little bit anyway, but the majority of for sale by owners ultimately list with an agent. That's reality. And NAR can quote you the current statistics, but the time I did this program, it was 85% of for sale by owners ultimately list with an agent or a broker to get their property sold. And the majority of for sale by owners go in it with the attitude that, you know what, I'm going to try to sell it myself because I have time. I've got the time. Find a time problem. You got to find the time problem. And it's a funny story, and it kind of incorporates 2 different things we're going to talk about today, and that's referrals and for sale by owners. I represented a husband and wife that moved here from Minnesota to San Diego, and they wanted to buy a property in Scripps Ranch in the Promontory, a complex where I lived, and I had property listed there and everything else. And ultimately, I represented them in the purchase of this home, and we loved each other. They had a 3-legged dog, a 3-legged golden retriever named Mimi, and this dog loved me. All dogs love me. And you know, Brian Reifus already ratted me out on my trick. You know, I always, when I go on listing appointments, I always have a dog treat in my pocket. And I'm serious, I do. Particularly if I know they have a dog. The dog comes over and lays his head on my lap, and they go, wow, our dog really likes you. You know, that other agent, my dog didn't even like that other agent, but they really seem to like you. So we're going to flip a coin. Whoop, you win because our dog likes you. But anyway, I represented these people, Dave and Kathy with the 3-legged dog, and they bought this property, and we loved each other. I mean, we stayed in touch. I saw them all the time. Also, I had represented another buyer in the same complex who came to me as a tenant to begin with, because I had a property under management in the Promontory. And ultimately, he fell in love with it and didn't buy that one, bought another unit in the complex. Guy's name was Pat. His wife's name was Marilyn. Pat was a retired Oklahoma oil field worker. And talk about an unusual man. He had a twang, a southern drawl that you could cut with a knife. I mean, it was just, and it'd take him 10 minutes to drag out a sentence. But by the same token, he was a very accomplished concert pianist. And you put him in front of a piano, he could, my jaw dropped first time he played that thing. Anyway, Pat and I got along really well, and he bought this unit through me in the Promontory. And he knew Dave and Kathy because they lived just the next building over. And they were friends. I get a call from Pat, and he goes, hey, Larry, guess who's got their house for sale here in the Promontory? And I said, who? He said, Dave and Kathy. It was like a stake in my heart. I'm going, are you kidding me? They love me. I talk to them all the time. Who did they list it with? No, for sale by owner. Picked up the phone. I waited a respectable period of time. I think it was 15 seconds, maybe 30. Picked up the phone, call him. Hey, Dave, this is Larry. Dave goes, I was expecting your call. Let me guess. Pat called you, right? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, they did come up in conversation. He goes, yeah, Larry. He said, trust me, if we list the house, we're listing it with you. But I got time. We're in no hurry. They owned a home in Las Vegas they were moving to. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a try. Now, I could have burned the bridge and said, well, then the heck with you. But I didn't. I said, well, you know what, Dave? Because I already know 85% of the time they're going to list for somebody anyway. And if he lists, it's going to be with me. So I said, you know what? I don't blame you. Number one, I don't blame you. If you could sell it for more and net more, I guess, I don't blame you. But let's do this. If you have a question in the process, I'm still your friend. I still consider myself your agent. Call me. I'll help you in any way I can. I get a call like a week later. Hey, Larry, got it sold. And I said, you got it sold? He goes, yeah. I said, you closed escrow? Oh, no. We just accepted an offer, though. We accepted an offer. And I'm wondering if you can recommend an escrow company we can use. Gave him the name of the escrow company. Dave calls me back 4 or 5 days later. Larry, just so you know, that deal's not going anywhere. They paid full price. They can't qualify for half of what they offered me. This deal's dead, But we're gonna continue to go ahead, and we think we're gonna do okay. Sure enough, Pat calls me. Hey, Larry, they got it sold a second time. I said, okay, we'll see. Another week or two goes by. I get the call from Pat again. Hey, Dave's deal fell apart again. You should call him. And I said, okay. So I called him up. Hey, Dave, what happened this time? I understand the deal fell apart. Yeah, these people paid full price. They're paying cash and everything else. We opened escrow. They did an inspection. The inspection said I had a torn screen and a chipped doorknob, and they want a $25,000 price reduction. They got, they were just wasting my time trying to get me under contract. So, the deal's dead. Well, okay, you about ready for me to come on over? We'll give it a little bit longer. 2 more weeks go by. I get a call. Hey, Larry, what are you doing this evening? And I said, well, it depends. Why? I want you to come on over and get the house listed for us. I said, okay, no problem. Came over, met me at the door. The lovable dog greeted me right away. I did everything that you would never do on a listing presentation, in the sense that they took me into not to the dining room table, they took me in the living room and put me in a recliner. Okay, they put me in a recliner, and I know these people really well, so I said, okay, we're going to shoot the breeze for a while, and then we're just going to have to talk about price. I'm sitting in the recliner. I'm not reclined in it, but I'm sitting in it. The little dog's right beside me, laying her head on my pocket lap, where I keep the treats. And we're shooting the breeze for a minute, and I see this book on the coffee table. And the book is, I can't say for sure it was For Sale by Owner for Dummies or How to Be a For Sale by Owner, but it was something like that. And I said, Dave, what's with the book? And he goes, well, Larry, after that second deal fell apart, I figured I needed to know more about this. And then he paused for a moment and he goes, by the way, I just want you to know, you know why we tried doing this on our own? And I said, well, yeah, you said you wanted to save the money. Yeah, I wanted to save the money. But the main reason is it's your fault. And I said, how was it my fault? He said, you made it look too easy. I said, well, that's my job, is to try to make it as easy as possible. You made it look too easy. He said, I'm a businessman. I figured I can do this. But there's a lot of stuff here I didn't know. So I told Kathy, I'm going to go get a book. And I got this book. And I started reading it. And I'm going through the book, and at the bottom of almost every page, it says, if you don't do everything we just told you about, you're going to wind up getting sued. That was almost like a tagline at the bottom of almost every page in this book. He said, I read that thing. I got it to about page 38, and I read that 38 times. And I turned to Kathy and said, I give up. Let's call Larry. And he said, so that's when we called you. He said, Larry, I want to get the house on the market, let's get it sold. But I got a great marketing plan for you. Going forward, here's what you should do. He said, I want you to go to Barnes & Noble. And I'm going, Dave, I can see where this is going. You're saying I should go to Barnes & Noble and buy some of those books, and then when I have a for sale by owner, just give them that book. He goes, no, No, save your money. He said, go to Barnes & Noble, go back in that section where those books are, take all of those books off the shelf, put them on the floor, open every one of those books to page 38 and stick your business card in there, close it up and put them back on the shelf. True story. I never did it, but I have to admit I kind of thought about it a little bit. It's kind of a classic story, but anyway, and we did get it sold. They moved to their home in Las Vegas. I've been to Las Vegas maybe a half a dozen times since then. We never stay in a hotel. We have to stay with Dave and Kathy. They would be insulted if we didn't. But they had time on their side. Most for sale by owners will tell you, yeah, I'm going to try it. By the way, my second listing in real estate that I ever got was a for sale by owner that I had to drive by every single day because he lived on my street. I had to drive by this house every single day, and I saw this for sale by owner sign. And I did things for that for sale by owner that I am embarrassed to admit to. I loaned them my open house signs. Didn't have my name on them, but I loaned them my open house signs, loaned them flags, answered questions and stuff. Ultimately, they did list with me. Great news is it was a corner house, and I had 2 for sale signs that I could put up, one on each side. So I got to use 2 of my for sale signs, brand new, never been used. And then every client I ever worked with during the time I had that property listed, I don't care where we were going to look at property, I found a way to drive by that house. Always drove by that house. My first listing, it was my second listing, but my first, I drove by that house and they go, oh, well, there you go. That's what, got your name on. I go, oh yeah, that's one of my listings. This is my only listing. But at the time, I couldn't help it myself. I had to drive people by it. Find a time problem. Keep in touch. With for sale by owners, it's rare they're going to say, oh, okay, I'm glad you called. Yeah, come on over. Let's stay in touch. Call them from time to time. Just see, hey, folks, I'm just checking to see. Had any luck yet? Yeah, we had some lookers, but nobody really. No, stay in touch. Ultimately, they are likely to call you to list the property. So stay in touch. And number 6, sell them on using a real estate agent before you sell them on using or listing with you. And the dialogue that I've used goes like this. Well, folks, I appreciate the fact you got time, you want to try to sell it yourself. And no problem, I wish you well. I just want you to know you can consider me a resource. You can call me. If you have a question, I'll be happy to help you and guide you in any way I can. But let me give you some advice. And this is the same advice I would give to a family member or a close personal friend. Find a professional realtor that knows your community, knows your market. Put that person to work for you. Let them go to work for you. They will get your property sold quicker, with less inconvenience, and they'll net you more at the close of escrow than if you sell it yourself. So even if you never speak with me again, that's the advice I would give you. I'm selling them on using an agent, and that's it. I would love it for you to think of me, but even if you never talk to me again, this is the advice I would give to a family member or a friend because it will serve you well. Okay. There's 3, I kind of laugh about this, the 3 facts about for sale by owners sellers. The first one, I almost laugh and say, well, here's one fact you need to understand. Sellers have been paying commissions for over 100 years. Now, how motivating is that to a for sale by owner, you think? Not. It's not, in my opinion. Yeah, it's true. Sellers have been paying commission for over 100 years. But I've had sellers say, well, yeah, I can appreciate that they have, but I'm not going to. I'm going to sell it myself. Number 2 is a biggie, and that is 8.5 out of 10 eventually choose a broker. And that's the statistic that you can verify by going to NAR and get the current statistic, both nationwide and statewide. I don't know if it zeroes in county or not. But anyway, when you know going in that 85% of the for sale by owners are going to list with an agent, don't you think it should be you? The only way you can make it you is stay in touch, don't blame them, offer to assist them, because in the end, most of the time, 85%, they're going to come back and they're going to list with the agent that didn't blame them, but who offered to assist them and stayed in touch. I'm not suggesting you loan them your open house signs, but okay. And number 3, and I tell people, I can sell it for quicker and more money in your pocket at the close of escrow. And sellers say, well, how can you net me more at the close of escrow and charge me a commission? That's a great question. I'd like to take a moment and discuss that with you. First of all, there's 6 reasons for that. Number 1 is serious buyers only shop for sale by owners to save commission. Now, that's not always true. I don't sugarcoat any of this stuff. I'm a practical guy. We all know that in some markets, when there's zero inventory, buyers will shop a for sale by owner because it's the only game in town. But in a normal balanced market, serious buyers only want to buy from a for sale by owner because they want to save a commission. Now, the seller is a for sale by owner because they want to save the commission. So you got a seller that wants to save the commission and the buyer that wants to save the commission. The problem with that is they can't both do that and still get it to sold at the proper price. Number 2, law of supply and demand. I've already alluded to this. Supply and demand in some markets for sale by owners can be successful. And in those markets, by the way, those raging seller markets, we've seen it in the past. I won't name names, but there's one that's legendary back in the day who was listing properties for sale by owners, charging them a flat fee, putting it in the MLS, charging them a flat fee, putting it in the MLS, getting the exposure, and then say, you negotiate everything with the seller. I'm not going to be the agent of the seller. I never really liked people that did that, and some of their names are legendary. It was almost like a profanity if you use their name. Oh yeah, I know. Do I dare utter the name? Well, long ago, most of you won't remember. So, but anyway, Emily might remember. Guy named Jeff Karchin.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, see, I got a response. Jeff Karchin. If I wanted to say something really mean to somebody, I'd say, you Jeff Karchin, But yeah, that's what he did. He basically used our system, collected a flat fee, put it in the MLS, and then you did both sides of the deal. I knew there'd be a few of you that would remember that. Pardon?
He never even talked to him.
Oh, no. He just put it in the MLS and said, don't call me. Call the seller for everything. I'm done. Okay, so law of supply and demand. The difficulty of separating lookers from buyers. Now, this is the Dave and Kathy story with the first buyer. They were lookers and they loved the property and they wanted to buy it, and they made him an offer. He accepted it, but they couldn't qualify for half of the loan amount. So he didn't know, they don't know how to separate lookers from buyers. We do. We're professional agents and brokers, and we take people out that are pre-qualified or pre-approved for the offer they're going to make. FSBOs, they don't have that option. The longer it takes for the property to sell, the more money a for sale by owner loses most of the time. Because what happens is they've used up the time and now they've run out of time, and now they're not in a position where they want to sell. Now they're in that group that needs to sell. And if they need to sell now, they've run out of time, they need to discount the price and they need to make concessions they wouldn't normally make. So the longer it takes to sell, the more money a for sale by owner loses. Number 5, market services, exposure. With the exception of the guys that will charge you a flat fee and put it in the MLS, nobody knows your property is for sale as a for sale by owner unless you advertise it, put up a sign, and do some self-marketing. More prospects. If it's listed, we're all working for you. If we got a buyer we're going to show them that property. They don't have that same option. People have to find that property on their own. Value, at the end of the day, it's consistently been proven that when the for sale by owner seller lists with an agent, they get the property sold quicker, at a higher price, and they net more at the close of escrow than if they sold it themselves. And number 6, third-party negotiating saves money. For those of you that have attended my entire program of classes, I give a handout from a guy it's an article from a guy who's a real estate lawyer and a real estate broker. His name is Robert Bruss. B-R-U-S-S. And Robert Bruss wrote this article. He had a column in the Union Tribune that people would write in and ask him questions about real estate. And one writer wrote in and said, Robert, I know you're a real estate broker and you're an attorney, but you've said that you sell your own when you sell your own properties, you list with another agent? Why would you do that? And he said, quote, I'm quoting from the handout, I love it, the way he put it. He goes, yes, Mr. Writer, I do have two significant handicaps. I'm a real estate broker and an attorney. And I laughed when I first read that. I said, those don't sound like handicaps. Those sound like advantages. He made the point that another agent, someone else, can negotiate better for me than I can negotiate for myself. And by the way, I can negotiate better for that person than that person can negotiate for themselves. When he said, I have two handicaps, I'm a licensed real estate broker and an attorney, for a moment I paused and then I went, oh yeah, now that I think about it, those are genuine handicaps. Pretend you're a buyer without an agent representing you, and the seller that you're buying from is a knowledgeable real estate broker and an attorney who can represent himself at no cost.
They're held to a higher standard.
Pardon?
They're held to a higher standard.
Oh, absolutely. And first of all, if I'm a buyer,
Walk away.
I'm going to run away. Libby, I'm going to get in my car and drive away. Because do I want to get in a deal with and I don't know, I'm a babe in the woods, I'm assuming that I'm not an agent or a broker or anything like that. I'm just a buyer. And the seller tells me he's a licensed real estate broker and an attorney. I'm thinking, man, the deck is stacked against me here, I'm in way over my head. So he always lists his property with another agent. And third-party negotiation definitely does come into play. Okay. For sale by owners, typically, this is kind of an interesting statistic, but according to NAR, the last time I looked, the average for sale by owner sells their property for somewhere in the neighborhood of 10.5% to 11% below fair market value. 10.5% to 11%. I've seen it as high as 11.5% in some markets. Take into account, you don't need a degree in accounting to know that if you sell your property for 10.5% below fair market value, to save 5 or 6% commission. Thank you, Jeff. You don't need a degree. Yeah. But that's what happened. The buyer wants to save the commission. The seller wants to save the commission. The seller, in some cases, the ones that don't want to work with an agent, they'll do anything not to. It costs them more. So in the long run, I can honestly say, I'm going to net you more at the close of escrow, even if you pay me a full commission. So third-party negotiating saves a lot of money, and recognizing that the average for sale by owner is selling their property for 10.5% to 11% below market value. How are we doing time-wise? Okay, we've got to be finished in 15 minutes. We're going to finish at 12:30, and pizza arrives at 12:30 also. So we're right where we need to be. When it comes to this little article, I always love this one. This past year, 64% of my business was from referrals. Just 2 years ago, I was doing 95% FSBOs. Of my 64% referrals, 42% of them were former FSBOs. These FSBOs are really coming through, referring to my business. It's fantastic. I love it. This guy, Todd Narlinger in Inglewood, Colorado. Always laugh about statistics because, the joke, most statistics are made up on the spot. And I like these. There's a lot of stats there. But the good news is, the bottom line is, once you do a transaction for sale by owner, you'll have a client for life, assuming you do the job that you will all do, which is a quality job of representation. When it comes to building your referral business, basic keys. None of this is rocket science. But number one, if you have a source of referrals, make regular contact. Now, I already told you about Pat in Maryland. Pat was the oil field worker and his wife was Marilyn. And Marilyn was in elementary school at Jerebeck Elementary School in Scripps Ranch. And I know that when Pat, by the way, Pat was a tenant of mine. He bought a property through me. Over the next several years, they referred at least 10 people to me that closed escrow. And so they were gold. They were definitely the greatest source of referrals I've ever had. Now, I called them on a regular basis. I popped by on a regular basis just to shoot the breeze. Didn't even bring up real estate. By the way, if Marilyn knew I was coming, she would bake chocolate chip cookies. I can honestly tell you that did motivate me to pop by a little bit more often because I love a good chocolate chip cookie. But anyway, I always stopped by. I would send them a thank you note. I'd send them holiday cards. I'd send them birthday cards. I never lost contact with Pat and Marilyn. Return calls promptly. When I got a call from Pat, if you get a call from a referral source, I always joke in the class, and since Mike's not here, and I know Jeff won't rat me out, I can say this, but if after this class is over, I go into my voicemail and I got 3 calls. One's from my wife, Nancy, and says, you need to call me when you can. Call me. If the other call is from Mike, our broker owner, says, Larry, I need to talk to you. And the third call is from Pat. I call Pat first. I won't tell you which of the next 2 I'm calling in order.
We won't tell you what.
Because that will just get me in trouble either way. But Pat always got my call right away. And he was a bird dog. The guy would talk to everybody in the neighborhood. He knew what everybody was doing. And by the way, he had my business cards too, a stack of them. He would say, hey, you guys are thinking about selling? Call Larry, he's the guy. So return calls promptly. Always direct your contact to both or the family. I know that Marilyn, being an elementary school teacher, she would come home and say, hey, Pat, one of my kids is leaving the class. They're moving to Buffalo. You should call Larry. Marilyn never called me. Pat would call. But I knew that Marilyn was the source. So if all I did was send thank you notes to Pat, Marilyn would stop thinking about me. So I always directed all my contacts to both of them. Get face-to-face once a year. We got face-to-face more often, but at least once a year, we would take Pat and Marilyn out to their favorite restaurant for dinner. We did it every year, sometimes more often than once a year. But he was a gold mine in terms of referral sources. So get face-to-face at least once a year. Do something special for them. Always ask for the business. We all know that now. I mean, everybody, half their business cards I see now, keep me in mind for referrals. I appreciate your referrals, whatever. But you got to ask for the business. And by the way, everybody that you do a transaction with, you should always give them a half a dozen of your business cards and say, if you value the job that I did and you respect me for the dedication that I provided in working with you, please keep me in mind if you run into someone that might benefit from my services, and give them your cards. And if they run out, give them more. Number 6, always thank them for the referral with a note or a gift. Now with Pat and Marilyn, I made the mistake on the very first referral they gave me, I offered them money. Turns out that was a huge mistake. They were offended, a little bit. They said, Larry, we didn't do this to get money. We did this because we know what a great job you do, and we really like these people, and we wanted to get you guys together because you'll both benefit, That's the only reason we did this. So, no, we don't want any money. But what they did agree to let me do is close of escrow. I would always come over with a very nice, they were really into plants. And I'm kind of an amateur plant guy. I like gardening, I like plants. I would always bring them over a very nice potted plant, and the potted plant was not in a plastic pot. It was in a beautiful ceramic. I probably spent $300 on the pot and the plant. That didn't come out right, did it? What kind of plant did you bring them there? No, it was a very elaborate potted plant in a nice pot, and a gift card for a meal at their favorite restaurant, where I would take them once a year anyway. And the total amount of it was probably $400 worth of stuff. The referrals they were giving me were tens of thousands of dollars. They would accept that every time. And we did the same little dance every time I would show up at the door. I'd have the big potted plant sitting at the door and the little thank you card with the gift card to the restaurant in Poway. Ring the doorbell, and they'd answer the door and they'd go, "Oh, Larry, you didn't need to do that." And I would go, "Yeah, I know, but I wanted to." And then they would say, "Oh, come on in." And we'd sit down and eat chocolate chip cookies, and he'd play the piano, and we got along really great. But always thank the referral. You know, give them something. Cash, I found, is not what most legitimate sources. An agent referring people to you, they want 25%. We already know that, maybe more, depending on the market. But individuals, oftentimes, just a nice note or a gift or both goes a long way. Number 7, this varies. Keep them informed about your progress with the referral. Pat was the over-the-top guy in terms of this part of it. If he gave me a referral, "Hey, Larry, I heard these people are thinking about selling. Here's their phone number. Here's their address." He'd call me 2 days later. "Did you call them?" "Well, yeah, I called them. I'm meeting with them tomorrow." "Oh, okay." 3 days later, he called me. "Did you meet with them?" "Yeah, I met with them. Got it listed." "Okay, how much?" He wanted to know every step of the way. Other sources of referrals, they don't need that much attention. But Pat wanted to know everything that was going on, and so I kept him up to date. Number 8, have an automated contact system so that you do number 1. There's no reason for y'all, with KV Core, with all the great tools that we've got, there's no reason for you to neglect following up with your sources of referrals. You can delegate your contact system to somebody else to do it for you if you're that busy. It's got to appear as though it's coming from you, though, of course. But have a system. And by the way, number 10 is often overlooked. Keep in touch with out-of-area past clients. They may move back. My second listing that I ever got was my for sale by owner on my street, right around the corner from my street. When I got their house sold, they were moving to the not Big Island, they moved to Oahu. They let me refer them to an agent in Oahu who paid me a referral fee on the property they bought in Hawaii. They never moved back. But about a year later, I got a call from some people from Oahu, said they were moving to San Diego. And by the way, these for sale by owners referred these people to me. They said, "You're moving to San Diego? You got to call Larry. He'll take care of you. He'll do a great job for you." Stay in touch with it. I've also had kind of a unique situation. Represented a husband and wife that listed their property with me in Scripps and moved to Florida. I referred them to an agent in Florida that paid me a referral fee. They sold the house in Florida. I didn't get paid on that one because they were out there. They moved back to San Diego, bought another house through me back in Scripps Ranch, lived in it for 5 years, subsequently listed it, sold it, and then moved to property in Virginia, Smith Lake in Virginia. They bought, for their equity of their Scripps Ranch house, they bought a 4,000 square foot house on the lake with its own boat dock and had money left over. So stay in touch with folks that move away. San Diego is an easy place to move to, except for the prices of homes. It's a hard place to live because it's a great place to live. I mean, that's why we're all here, most of us, because it's a great place to live. Referral business, you never want to neglect your source of referral. I got to a point in my real estate career where really everything I was doing, the last 5 years that I was working actively as a producing agent, I only worked with past clients or referrals. Because the hardest thing we do in our business is not selling real estate. It's selling our clients on our ability to effectively and properly represent them. So referrals and past clients, that's where you can go on a listing presentation and sit in a recliner and take a listing because they're past clients. You know, you're not going through all the other stuff. Any questions about anything we talked about? I mean, anything. Anybody have any stories that they'd like to share?
You said that don't offer money. What if they ask you for money?
If they ask you for money, again, you don't need there are legalities and
I
prohibitions.
said I can't do that, but she's like, oh, another realtor offered me money, and I said, how much? And it was a weird conversation to begin with, because she's a friend of mine. It was odd. And so I said, technically, the brokerage is supposed to get paid. Everything goes through the brokerage, it's illegal. I could do a gift card, whatever. But anyway, I didn't know what to say to that. I felt a little odd.
Well, it is an awkward moment, and we already know the legalities of it. Can I say that I've known of agents that have done just that? They're not writing them a check. There's usually green money involved, and it's in an envelope. I know that it does happen. I always say, let your conscience be your guide when it comes to something like that. I've been fortunate in the sense that I've never had to, well, almost never have I ever done anything like that. One time I did. I kind of felt really awkward about it, nervous about it. It wasn't a lot of money anyway. So I kind of soothed my conscience and everything else. But anyway, the standard answer is, no, you can't do that.
We pay referral fees, 30% referral, which is far greater.
Oh, tons more. Yeah, Pat and Marilyn, though, like I say, I offered to give them some money. This was a very long time ago, and things were quite different. And they were offended. They didn't want money. But, Jeannie.
This is
Yeah.
similar, this is kind of similar, but what if it's a buyer that wants, well, I see on Redfin or wherever,
yeah,
you're
they
getting
want a credit.
2.5% or 2%. I want you to give me a kickback. Can I say, well, okay, sure, I'll just send you a W-9, and I'm gonna send you a 1099 next year for any money I give you, but do you have a good way to squash that from people that think they should take some of your commission?
Now, give me the context again. Who's,
Oh, hi Larry, I want you to write a contract for me. I saw this house. I'm like, oh, I see you're making 2.5% because Redfin and Zillow say that's your compensation. I want you to kick back to me 1%.
if they found the property on their own and they want me to represent them and they want 1% and they're paying me in the MLS 2.5%, and I don't have to show any property to do anything, I'm going to say, you know what? I'll give you the 1%, but I'm not going to write you a check. I'm going to apply 1% of my commission to your closing costs, and then there's no tax implication and it's perfectly legal. So yeah, and by the way, when I have a seller that says, I want you to kick back some money to me because my property is going to be easy to sell and you're going to represent me as a buyer, when I buy the replacement property, I'll say, sure, I can do that too. What I'll do is I'll give you the credit and apply it to your buy side of the closing cost. That way they're not going to wander off without me.
Do we have a form for that?
We got a form for everything. But they're, but the listing contract, we'll chat about that over pizza. How's that?
Okay.
Because I did say I'd be done at 12:30 and I have 12:29. So I did have to kind of condense and stuff. Hopefully you all got some, these sources of business, thank you. These sources of business we're talking about are out there. They're viable, legitimate sources. In this market, you're going to start seeing expired listings because there's a lot of sellers out there that are still living in the world of a year ago and thinking their home is still worth X amount of dollars when it's not anymore. And those listings will expire. But if they need to sell, they will relist. They might as well be with you. But these approaches that we've shared with you, nothing's 100%, but they're all better than just nothing. They all work most of the time. All righty, well, thank you all. I appreciate you being here today. Stick around, join us in celebrating the February birthdays. Help yourself to. Emily, by the way, helped me with a lot of this stuff. She did. So, Emily, thank you again for all your help. I don't know how this worked, but we're going to check it and see. Thank you, Nene.